Hello and welcome to today's video. Today, doing my review of the Piston Carbon Black Fountain Pen from Gravitas Pens. Now, I did an unboxing of this and a couple of other Gravitas pens slightly earlier in the year, and I jumped the review of the Monster ahead of this one, simply because and the Monster is a new model. This wasn't as new a model, and so I wanted to sort of get that one out there. But I've been using this pen now for like on and off for about 6 months, and it's been inked consistently for the last few. I just will say straight up at the beginning of this video, I think this is a fantastic pen. I think it is very cool looking. I think it feels great in the hand. It writes really, really well. So we're going to talk about the parts and features, dimensions, all that stuff, writing sample. And then I'll talk about a couple of little pros and cons, but suffice to say, the fact that this pen has been inked now for months and I just keep re-inking it, it's a great pen. Okay, so this pen is made from pultruded carbon fiber, and it's left raw in this pen, and then all the accents are PVD coated titanium, grade 5 titanium. So it's a really cool look between the pultruded carbon and the really nice PVD coated titanium. Top of the pen is the peaked finial there, and it's actually a numbered edition, and I have number 230. And the cap then swells out and continues along. Step down onto the barrel where we get our first ring of the titanium. We then get the ink window in there, and then more of the pultruded carbon, and then the piston turning knob. It is a piston pen. If the name didn't give that away, I don't know what I can do. The Gravitas Piston Carbon Black. I should say Gravitas Pens is the Irish pen company run by Ben Walsh. He's the designer and oversees everything, and the business side of this is run through Pen Venture, which is Emmy over there. Gravitas pens are available at a range of different retailers, but head over to Pen Venture. I'll leave a link in the video description. Best way to get Gravitas pens is direct from them. Great service, everything is brilliant. Yes, but it is a piston filler. It's the first piston model from Gravitas pens, and it's a ripper, really it is. And then another peaked fitting on the end there. It is a screw cap, and it comes off in 1 and just under 2 turns. It's a smooth transition into nice threads there, and then this grip section which continues along and then has a little dip and flare on the end. It's not a super smooth section. There's like a bit of sort of texture to it. I don't think this one is micro grooved. If it is, it's very, very micro. But there is a bit of texture to it, but also that grip section shape stops it from being slippery. It has a number 8 steel nib, and this is a black nib with the Gravitas logo on it there and the M for medium. And then it has a Nico ebonite feed. So piston pen, I can't operate it because it is filled with ink, but as you turn this knob, a piston runs up and down in the pen. So you dip the pen into ink just beyond the nib, turn the piston on there, it runs up and down, draws ink up into the pen like a massive converter. The entire body of the pen is like a converter. It gives you a really good ink capacity and all that kind of stuff. And this one has an ink capacity of about 1.6 to 1.7 milliliters, which is really good. And then, running through the ebonite feed into a nice number 8 size steel nib provides a really nice writing experience. This isn't an inexpensive pen. It retails for about €350. So really not inexpensive, especially for a steel nib pen, but you are getting a very cool material, a very nice design, good filling system, and just a really fabulous pen in the hand. The nib may only be a basic sort of steel nib, and there is some conjecture over who makes them. We all have our theories. They keep pretty quiet about it. But it's a steel nib, but it writes like a dream. One thing that Emmy at Pen Venture and Ben at Gravitas won't do is they won't send out a bad nib, or they endeavor to not send out a bad nib. Obviously, nothing is absolutely perfect, but, in terms of, I've never had a nib necessarily from Gravitas that has been bad. So that care is taken. And that is the basics of this very cool, very striking, stealthy, dark, broody pen that I really enjoy so much. I have a few pens to show it alongside today. Firstly, this traditional Lamy Safari there. Then I've got the Gravitas acrylic vac, and then the Gravitas Monster, which has just recently been cleaned out again. So you can see it's a good sized pen. The Monster isn't necessarily a huge pen. It's not designed to be a huge pen. The Monster refers to the ink capacity of that pen being something like 7 milliliters. But you can see the Piston Carbon Black is just a bit longer there than something like the Gravitas Ultimate Vac or the acrylic vac. And they're all longer here than the Lamy Safari in their capped forms. Uncapped, once again, it comes in at a good length. The vac filler here has a number 6 size nib. The Monster has a number 8. And of course, the Lamy has its own little nib. But you can see it fits nicely alongside those pens. So it's a fairly standard, very comfortable length in the hand when it is uncapped. Posted, it comes in at a pretty good length. It's about just a little longer there than the Lamy Safari, considerably longer there than the vac filler, and shorter there than the Monster. The Monster does post quite long. Okay, so let's talk the dimensions of the Gravitas Piston Carbon Black. It is 149 millimeters when it is capped. It's 141 when it's uncapped, so it's a really nice length in the hand. It's 171 millimeters when it is posted, so it's an okay length. It does post quite securely. Around the section is about 12 to 13 millimeters, it's about 17 around the cap. The pen weighs 35 grams, 26 in the body and 9 in the cap, so the balance is decent. I only just find that is a relatively sort of bulbous sort of step down off the cap onto the barrel, and sometimes I do feel that just on the webbing of my hand there, but it is a nice size. I do like writing with this pen uncapped, unposted, sorry. I think the balance is really nice. That heavier metal section just allows the balance to tip nicely into your fingers, while the mechanism of the piston and having that sort of weight at the back helps it sit nice and comfortably and heavily in your hand. I also like the aesthetic, the line of this a little better when it is unposted. Like, I find that the cap there just looks a bit out of place, whereas the line and so the aesthetic of that, and then having the accent of the PVD coated titanium on the back there just is a very nice look in the hand. Let's do a writing sample now. So this is 90 GSM Clairefontaine paper. And we have the Gravitas pens. Piston. Carbon. Black fountain pen. With a number 8 steel. Medium nib. The ink in this today is a Robert Oster ink. It's been one of my favorite inks for a long time in pens like my Visconti Homo Sapiens. It is Soda Pop Blue. It's a really lovely sort of, not super vibrant blue, but sort of nice, and it's got some nice pop on it. And it sheens nice and red, not too heavily, but enough to make it interesting. Let's do some writing. So it writes quite smoothly, and it writes nice and generously wet. There's no issue there. Things like the vac filling, the piston filling system, you don't need to like have the valve open or anything like that, like you might with like, a vac filling pen or something like that, to allow for a nice free flow of ink. It also doesn't have that safeguard for flying, but honestly, I've not had a problem. I have flown with this pen and it was absolutely fine. Reverse writing, it's not the best. It's not too sharp or anything. It's just not overly wet or nice. Not a flex nib, definitely not a flex nib, but these number 8 nibs you can squeeze a little bit of line variation out, but it's not anything you notice in writing unless you're writing with a heavy hand. Like I generally write with a fairly light hand, so I'm not noticing that in the writing. Let's do some quick writing. Interesting, there's a little skip there just at the start, doing a couple of those. One thing I will say, and I'll say this again in the cons, is that this particular nib, for some reason, does tend to skip just a little bit if hand oils get involved. And this Clairefontaine is a coated paper, so it could be that. It is a very humid day here in Sydney as I'm filming this, so there is the option, the potential for that, but I've not noticed it so much. It's a pen I really enjoy writing with. It writes easily under its own weight, all that kind of thing. It's got a nice weight in the hand, and it lays down a beautiful, consistent, sort of nice line of ink there as well. Okay, let's talk pros and cons. We'll start with the cons. A couple of the main cons I have with this pen. Firstly, as with all Gravitas, there's no clip, there's no roll stop. I don't know if Ben will ever make a pen with a clip. It's not his design aesthetic, and I'm quite okay with it in terms of the line and the design of this pen. My other issues are, personally, like I prefer a number 6 size nib to a number 8 in general. But on this pen, to me, the number 8 size nib just looks a touch big. It's not a huge pen, and that is a huge nib. Like, I'll just get the Monster out here again. This is a slightly larger pen and a girthier pen, and you can see that number 8 size nib just feels a little more in proportion there, just to my taste, and that may be just my taste. The other issue I have with the nib is that sometimes, as I said, it is a little sensitive to different paper and ink, depending on things like hand oils on the page and stuff like that. I've noticed that a little bit more with this pen than with some others. That could be because the nib is just a little too smooth. It's been smoothed just a little bit too much, maybe, because it is a very smooth nib. But it's not been so much of an issue to stop me from writing with it. I've written this pen dry a number of times. I really enjoy it. The other issue is posting this pen posts it onto the Piston knob. And I won't do it now, obviously, but sometimes I have actually activated the Piston a little bit with the pen. I've been able to activate the Piston. Yeah, it's doing it now. With the cap posted on the back there. So it is possible. It's rare, but it is possible. So just be aware of that. But as I said, I prefer to write with this pen unposted. So what are the pros? Okay, firstly, I want to say tolerances and build quality, as you would expect with Gravitas pens, are incredible. It's beautifully done. The little engraving of the logo on the pen there, the engraving of the number of the pen, the particular edition, it's all really lovely. The smoothness of the transition between the materials is sublime. And the details of the design down to the size and shape of the grip section, the blockier threads there, it's all meticulously done. I really like the fact that it has an ink window. A solid body pen like this needs an ink window, and this one has one, and it's a very functional, very easily visible ink window as well. I really, really love this material. I think that pultruded carbon left raw like this with the accent of the slightly darker, slightly shinier coated titanium, it looks so good. I think it does look amazing. And the cap liners and all those kinds of things, it just works beautifully. I think it's a good, reliable writer. As I said, I've written it dry a number of times. If a pen doesn't write for me, I don't keep writing with it. I have too many pens and too many inks to spend time writing with something I'm not enjoying. I enjoyed this one. And then the other thing I really want to say is that it really speaks of the Gravitas design. So many of the pens have this this is based around the Sentry pen model. I've done a review of a Sentry. I'll link that in the video description. I think, these peaked finials and the general profile and shape, it's unmistakably Gravitas, and I love that. I'm a big fan of Gravitas. They had their hard days as a brand. Now Emmy and Penventure are involved. The sky is the limit for this brand, honestly. it's not an inexpensive pen. Their pens are not cheap, but they are well made, and they are not they're a good size company, but they're not competing yet with brands like, Pilot and Lamy in terms of the mass production of their items. So you can expect a little bit more expense there. These are meticulously designed, years of development, years of, prototypes and things like that. It's all part of it. So, and also you're getting cool materials and things like, there aren't that many brands of pen making pens out of this material. And at this price point, €350, you're not going to find many. So this was the Gravitas Piston Carbon Black. I hope you found this video interesting and useful. Please like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, all that kind of stuff. A big thank you to Ben and Emmy at Gravitas and Pen Venture for supporting this channel. And this is a pen I purchased, but they have been really supportive over the years, and I am grateful for their ongoing support. So yes, if you've got a way you'd like to support the channel, I would really love to hear from you. But in the meantime, enjoy your pens, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.